Today, we are going to investigate a location that does not belong in our historical narrative. Situated 7,000 feet high, located in Turkey, we have Mount Nemrut, yet another location that definitely should have been headlined in History 101. This place should have been one of the first things that we were all told about. Yet, my history classes mentioned this location a total of 0 times. Clearly, these heads did not fit into our narrative, where they are 100% destroyed. We can see that 7,000 feet up in the mountain did not matter to the past. Any altitude would do just fine. With their hammers and chisels in hand, they would climb up the mountain, construct perfect statues, and be back home for dinner. The narrative tells us that the pattern of damage to the heads suggests that they were deliberately damaged, where it is admitted. And of course, they will never know who it was that destroyed them, where they are trying to tell us that they know exactly who built them, and the exact year, where they tell us that it was 62 BC. Not 61 and not 63, but negative 2086. They have all of this written down in their journals. No. And they begin to give us backstories on these statues, telling us that they were once seated with names of each god inscribed on them. How would they know this? That they were once seated with names of each god inscribed on them. How would they know this? Unless, of course, they were the ones that removed it. It's very interesting. Where at some point, the heads of the statues were removed from their bodies. Now, within this community, we have shown exposing massive lies within the narrative that we have all been told. We show that there was a previous civilization here, a civilization that was extremely advanced. We have documented where a lot of them may have gone. We have also shown how our current civilization today has been repopulated. We know that there are groups funding these projects, funding these narratives to keep this previous civilization out of our history books. And these groups that were created in the last 60 years continue to go to these incredible sites and destroy them. Renovate them. Where this photo shows their work, in my opinion. You can see the heads at the bottom. And then you can see the stones were placed around the bottom of them. Clearly something that our civilization would do. The supposed evolved and advanced group. Just piling stones on the bottom of them. Just very advanced work. It's completely destroyed. And these heads at the bottom are not the same color as the heads above. So I'm guessing there were more statues that have been blown into millions of pieces here. And then we have this photo where look at all of that grinded up material right behind them. Did we just throw the previous civilization's work right into a grinder and spit it out right behind the statues? You already know why people are moving to crypto, but here's the problem. Most wallets are still plugging in to the same exact systems that we're all trying to escape from in the first place. That's exactly why Rumble built Rumble Wallet. It's a self-custodial wallet that lives inside of an ecosystem that actually defends free speech and financial freedom. No banks are holding your balance. Not even Rumble can touch your funds. This is your money, on your keys, on your terms. If you're already using Bitcoin or stablecoins, Rumble Wallet gives you even more power. Direct, fast tipping and support for creators on Rumble without waiting weeks for payouts or dealing with random account holds. On-chain payments in assets like Bitcoin, Tether Gold, and USAT. So you can now move value worldwide without asking anybody's permission. Most wallets just stop at storage. Rumble Wallet, it actually connects your money to a marketplace of ideas that refuses to cave to censorship. So if you're serious about sovereignty, financial and digital, this is exactly where you're going to level up. Go to wallet.rumble.com or search Rumble Wallet in your app store. Download it, back up your recovery phrase, and move your money where it belongs, in your hands. Rumble Wallet is a technology provider only and not a custodial service. See terms at wallet.rumble.com. I've been using this for a while now and it's amazing. Download Rumble Wallet and step away from the big banks for good. You tell me. Here's a different angle of it, where I know I've seen this before. Anyone else see what I see? Let me know in the comments below. A very clear destruction site in my opinion. And here we can see just how difficult this would be 2,086 years ago, where we have seen this narrative before, when they built a cave thousands of feet in the air just to get a little privacy, when a much better location to chisel perfect statues 2,086 years ago would have been on the ground. And we all know this. They even have these stone molds where Turkey was supposedly running out of space 2,080 years ago. And this site was used for chiseling and stone molding practice, where we are told even the known history of the kingdom is a little shrouded in history. Shrouded to hide something. Where we are told the name of the builder. They know exactly who built these things, if you can believe it. These sculptures were supposedly built by King Antiochus, built as a tomb sanctuary for himself. No. Where the facial features are Greek and the clothing is more Eastern. And for the best part, and we are just getting started today, that these structures are no longer standing in their original positions. So we're at the point that we know that someone, a group, most likely the same group that we have seen all over the world, this group has most likely already been to this location, clearly destroying it. We have shown very clear evidence of this today. Very clearly destroying the previous civilization's work, 7,000 feet into the mountains. Oh, hey, look who has a page on this place. It's our great friends over at the WMF. It's crazy that we have the exact same interests as this group over and over. It's so nice of them to help preserve our favorite spots, where they even have a nice write-up about this location. So let's see what they have to say. The Armenian king ruled the small territory in the 1st century BC, where the king reached a peaceful agreement with Pompey. Of course he did. Yes, very peaceful. There were lots of witnesses. It's a very nice gesture. Lots of handshaking and laughs. And we all know this is 100% a very true story. No, we don't. Where 5 years later, on the dot, the Roman Senate recognized the king as a friend. It's so nice that they were all getting along. It's also so nice that the mainstream treats us like little kids, telling us these incredible stories of friends in the making, where 2,000 years ago, they had master sculptors. But then we get to the 1800s, and we're all back to riding around on donkeys and living in sheds. Master sculptors carving a monumental scene of the king seated among the gods, including Greco-Roman deities. And then Abe Lincoln, a president of the United States, is born in a shack in 1809. So where exactly is the evolving and advancing thing that we're all told about over and over? 2,000 years of advancing. We're told by the mainstream narrative that 2,000 years ago, we had master sculptors carving seated kings 7,000 feet high on a mountain. After 1,800 years of advancing, you would think that we would have evolved a little bit and built more than just a couple statues on a mountain. You would think that we would have advanced, maybe a little bit even, into maybe making stone sheds at the very minimum. But no, we were making wooden sheds that didn't even have a bathroom. You had to go outside to the outhouse. Are we all seeing this? It's incredible when you really think about it. We are told there were some conflicts with Julius Caesar, and we've seen this in episode 77, our 1 hour long episode, where the owner just orders a palace, and it's there forever. And now they say that 2,000 years ago, Antiochus orders the assembly of a mountain of crushed rock. He's just ordering it. Any delivery man will do. Back 1,800 years ago, where I think this is a massive lie. That 50-meter pile of crushed rock is 100%, in my opinion, the crushed stone of the incredible work of the previous civilization. All in my opinion, of course. But I think it's pretty obvious at this point. We just need 50 meters of crushed stone way up on that mountain, 7,000 feet in the air. What would we do without that crushed stone 2,000 years ago? This story is ridiculous, where the statues, each over 9 meters tall, have all been damaged by earthquakes. But these were no ordinary earthquakes. These were the earthquakes that would chop the heads off of statues from 2,000 years ago. Extremely picky earthquakes that just wanted the heads. All documented. No, of course it's not. Where the earthquakes took their stone heads and sent them rolling down the hillside. Or did someone go in there and remove the heads and grind most of them up and put them right behind the site, 50 meters high, and then roll the other ones down the hill? What do you think? You tell me. Where it was, of course, rediscovered in 1881. So let's get this straight. They didn't even know about this place until 1881. And archaeological activity only began in 1953. Rediscovered in 1881, exactly like we have talked about here so many times. With our civilization, all of us, just starting only a few hundred years ago, our timeline that we are all given, beginning around 1700, finding this place in 1881, and then knowing all about the negative 62s, 2,086 years ago, knowing all about it. Not 2,085 years ago, but 2,086 years ago on the dot. They know all about this date. Can you see the lie very clearly now? Where since the start of the excavation, most of the heads have been found. Most of them. Not all of them, but most of them. Incredible. Where the INF was charged with the stabilization, conservation, and presentation of this site, where we know that they just found this place in 1881. So for 1,900 years, this place needed a total of 0 restoration projects. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, because we found it, it now needs our help. Where I want to know, do you really think that this place needed our civilization's help? I'm really curious what you think. Please let me know. Solicited WMF to lead the stone conservation and structural consolidation initiatives and to participate in drafting a management plan, where we have seen this before in other narratives, where this is supposed to be a tomb, we are told. Yet there is no body in there. Indeed, the body of the king. It's thought to have been buried in the chambers, beneath his man-made mountain, though his tomb has yet to be found. So the mainstream pretends to know all about this site. They pretend to know the dates and the names, all associated with the construction, and the reasons why it's there. Yet, the one-time physical evidence of their claim needs to be presented. Their claim is proven to be a lie. There's no individual in there, where we know they haven't found anything. It's not a tomb. Never has been, and it never will be. So are they still looking? Are they still on the hunt for this person? No, of course not. Where I'm sure it's possible, just like we've seen at Easter Island in episode 60, that some of these heads are just the top of the entire structure. Missing heads, where these heads were possibly giving us depictions of what the previous civilization might have looked like, giving too much away to all of us, and just needing those earthquakes to chop all of their heads off and rolling them down the hill and leaving everything else perfectly in place. It makes total sense. Oh no, it doesn't. I am just so thankful that we have so-called experts that went to college, majoring in time travel, to tell all of us about the year 62 BC. Because what would we ever do without them? I decided to check this place out on Google Earth, and the very first place that I pick to drop the guy down, I see this, where you can see the site, and then turn the camera to the side, and we have this thing over here on the side. Now you can see that if these are true depictions of the past, these individuals' heads were so much bigger than ours are today. We are tiny compared to the past, in my opinion. We've shown this a lot. We are even shown that there are tunnels at this site, entrances to an overall structure. And of course, right near the site, you have this bridge, showing that this whole area is extremely significant to the past. A bridge that is still working today, where our bridges fall apart in a few decades. And we all know this. Let's check this place out even more, where we can see this mound of crushed up stone, where my guess is that something is underneath it, with things being buried, as you can see in this depiction right here. But I think that there's something much bigger than this, possibly further down as well. It's very interesting. Remember, all we are told about it is that they ordered it to be done, and that was it. So we don't get much information on this mound of crushed up stone, other than them just ordering it for no reason at all. And do you understand how hard this would be to crush up this much stone and place it here, up on a 7,000 foot high mountain, 2,000 years ago? Just order it, and it's there forever. In the timeline that we are told about, this is ridiculous. So we started over there, and then over here, we have more stone structures. So let's just go around more and spin it back. And you're going to see that the earthquake also attacked this statue's head as well. Goodness, can you believe this earthquake? Honestly, how did we believe this nonsense for so long? Earthquakes that just attack heads of stone structures on a 7,000 foot hill. I can't believe this. Who else sees a massive destruction site? I do wonder, why did they leave any of them? Why didn't they just destroy them all? And look at the location of these things. Just coming way up here to carve statues and lay a big mound of crushed up stone. All for a tomb, and no tomb is even there. This is not the true story in my opinion. It's completely made up. And on Google Earth, you can even see people going up to the top. So I'm not sure if you can still do that today, but I would love for somebody to scan with ground penetrating radar and see if something is under all of these broken pieces of stone. Oh, what is this? In September of 2012, a group of archaeologists using ground penetrating radar and related techniques discovered a pyramidal shaped chamber about 6 meters long and 2.5 meters wide and 3 meters high, and about 15 meters or 50 feet beneath the apex of the Nemrut tumulus. They are letting us know that there are things under this stone. It was not just an order to get a bunch of crushed up stone for no reason. This was deliberate. There is something underneath, and we are correct. They speculate it could be a sarcophagus, along with other objects, possibly statues, where 2 other chambers have been located near the larger pyramidal chamber, where the Turkish authorities are not allowing the site to be excavated. So we can only speculate as to what is in the hidden chambers, where the Turkish authorities stumble on this place in the 1800s. They did not construct it, but now they are not allowing the world to see what is under all of that crushed up stone, where the ground penetrating radar gave this depiction underneath that stone, proving that there are things being hidden from us. Can you see very clearly now that we are correct? That this is a worldwide operation to suppress the truth. We have seen this in China, where they have trees and dirt on top of pyramids, hiding things that would explain our true past, hiding things under massive mounds of crushed up stone, where the stone was most likely the old world's work. Are we understanding now how this works? How the narrative is controlled 100% everywhere? How you are not allowed to know what is really going on at these locations, at these sites, and you're just told about a friendship story instead. A bunch of nonsense, where most people believed it until now, where we are just getting started on this channel. Next week, next Saturday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube and Rumble, we will be uncovering another site, this time located all the way in Syria, where we are told that this site was constructed in 1300 BC, predating Turkey's site by nearly 1,300 years. A site that we were told had 3 phases, and they know the exact dates of all of them, where we are shown the exact same thing, where griffins, a possible connection to Tartaria, griffins that have their heads removed from the overall statue yet again. Where if they were teaching about these sites in our history classes, I think I would have been a little bit more excited to get brainwashed every day. Removing the heads, exactly like they did in Turkey, where I don't see this as a coincidence at all, especially when they are located over 200 miles apart, destroying the truth, which is most likely the exact same thing that they did with the head of the Sphinx, located in Giza, Egypt, where we have footprints. Wait, did I say we were waiting until next week to expose this location? There's been a change of plans. We're gonna do this right now. No waiting around. Where we are told that these footprints, each about 3 feet, 3 inches in length, we are told are carved into the stone floors. Where is it possible that these are not carvings and they are actual footprints of the past? Where these feet are feet of an individual measuring 66 feet in height. Giants, all located at Andara, a site that was just found in 1955. Yet again, another location that is destroyed, set atop an artificial hill, where you have to ask, what could still be underneath this site? Where they tell us that this place has a lot of similarities to Solomon's Temple, also known as the First Temple in Jerusalem, all located in Syria. Again, I'm at the point where I don't believe that these stories, these locations, were from thousands and thousands of years ago. I believe that this all occurred a lot closer to our timeline than we've been told, possibly only a few hundred years ago. And these dates of 1300 BC and 740 BC are given to us by some random excavator, where the surveying sculptures depict lions and sphinxes are comparable to the cherubim of the first temple. Also left to speculation is to whom the temple is dedicated, where yet again, the temple was significantly damaged by Turkish jets during the military operation in 2018, where 60% of the structure was reduced to rubble. And we can see the site here, where it looks like there's some weird pattern in the ground all over the place. It's very interesting. And of course, no street view here on Google Earth, with the closest street view located up this road. Why do you think that is? Why do you think we just can't see this place? And we have more from the footprints, and we've all heard of the fingerprints of the gods, Graham Hancock. But have we just located the footprints of the gods? The entire front facade of the temple has been destroyed, and the site's emblematic basalt lion was stolen in 2019 by members of the Hamza Division, which is part of the Syrian National Army, where at this point, we can all see very clearly that our true history is being destroyed worldwide and has been for a very long time. Let me know in the comments what you think that they wanted to hide from us. I have an idea, but I want to know all of your opinions at this point, after everything that we've discussed. This is a photo of the site from before the bombings, where it's clearly already been destroyed. Heads have been removed that would have shown depictions of the past that do not fit in at all with the narrative that we've all been told today. And here is a photo of the giant lion that was stolen in 2019, where in my opinion, it looks like something that would hold something of value inside of it. Here are more photos of the site before the bombing. And here is the site today. Talk about going into the middle of nowhere to drop a bomb, purposefully destroying an extremely valuable site. There's no doubt about it. This was deliberate, complete destruction of the past, worldwide. Like we have shown, it is no longer a question if we are correct or not. We're spot on at this point. There is something massive being hidden from us, our true past, our true purpose. And it is not just one location of the world. It is in every single country, every city, every town. We are not told the truth about our historical narrative. There was an extremely advanced group of people, right here where we are today, a massive group. They were here, much closer to our timeline than what we have been told. And knowing this unlocks so many questions, or questions from thousands of people, all with different points of view, different skill sets, different knowledge, all working together. These questions, they will always find answers. We were looking into Budapest, and we found this character that was building palaces at 23 years old, winning contests for massive parliament buildings, where Budapest had so many master palace architects that they didn't even need to use the winner's design. Mr. Hausman was pinned to a lot of buildings, like we have shown, but we need to officially close the book on this guy. We have covered the New York Palace in Budapest, which is now a 185-room palace hotel and cafe. They tell us that this building opened up in 1894 as the headquarters for the New York Life Insurance Company, where life insurance is yet another thing that starts right up in 1706. The first company to ever offer life insurance was founded in London, 1706, 1 year before the British pound became the official currency of the UK. At this point, it is becoming incredibly evident that something massive happened at this point in time. It's just one thing after the next. And if all of this wasn't true, then the mainstream narrative would have given us something major that was created in the 1500s by now. A single company from the 1400s. You would think that there would be some sort of progression over time, that something would still be here from the 1500s. It's not mathematically probable that every single invention, all the money, billions of people, all of it, comes in a matter of 300 years. And before this, basically nobody rode around on donkeys and lived by candlelight, riding with duck feathers, yet knocked out massive castles and basilicas. It doesn't add up at all. Everything was given back to us, starting around this date of 1700, where in my opinion, they were laying the groundwork, the foundation of our new civilization, and our new civilization was being formed. And then after it was all situated and they had control over all the major things that a controller would want to be in control of, governments and laws, financial institutions, insurance companies, taxes, and the rest. After this was done, the okay was given to start repopulating this place again. And 300 years later, here we all are. Now, before we take this research to the next level, let's take a minute and thank all of our badge members, all of our Patreons, and every single subscriber. You are all awesome in helping grow this channel to reach new people every single week. And this is becoming clearer and clearer by the episode. When we take a look at inflation, where it basically follows the exact same chart that the world population does when we have nothing going on before the 1700s, and then just takes off. I think we have located the beginning point of our current civilization based on math and information that they have provided us, where there's nothing. And out of nowhere in 1700, everything is created and billions of people just come out of nowhere. Inventions all over the place, with wars to confuse people, demoralize the ones involved, and destroy massive cities that give it all away. Where, according to the data provided, people reproduce at basically 66% growth every 69 years. And this is documented. So what was going on in the 1200s? Well, according to the mainstream narrative, everybody stayed away from each other. Nobody wanted kids, apparently. For hundreds and thousands of years, the population was basically nobody. And then the 1700s hit, and all of a sudden, humans want to repopulate at a rate that's never been seen before. And it's not even close, where it goes from nobody to billions of people in just a few hundred years, when we know that this is the rate in which humans repopulate. And they know this as well. And when you wipe the population out, humans will repopulate at this rate yet again. And through the first 64 episodes, we have so many different things that show that this is the case, basically proving that there have been previous civilizations. And at this point, it wouldn't be shocking at all if it was over 100 billion people and they were extremely advanced. A community that can't see until the savior, Benjamin, comes around, where 63.7% of people need glasses today. And I'm just going to take a guess and say that the 1200s people didn't have 20/20 vision either, meaning that they also needed glasses, but we are told they didn't have them. And they also didn't have a light bulb. So no lights, no glasses. Could you imagine this group of people in the 1200s, where we are told that they built Buddha Castle, stumbling around at night with no glasses and no lights, yet getting palaces done no problem at all, and not a single mistake anywhere. Over 100 feet in the air, perfectly put together by people that can't see. A community that supposedly didn't even create the pencil for another 500 years. But Buddha castles are no problem at all, where in the future, we can even show that the oldest prison in the USA was built in 1720, where you might say, yeah, that's because the USA was formed in 1776. And then we go over to England, and the first state prison in England was the Millbank Prison, established in 1816. And 8 years later, in 1824, 54 other prisons had formed and adopted this system. And we will have an episode fully dedicated to this in the very near future. I found some other things that I thought you all might enjoy. The St. Paul St. Louis, which is a church located in Paris, France, with construction beginning in 1627. Beginning in 1627. 397 years ago, in a time period that we have shown, according to the mainstream narrative, had just a little over no people, yet able to knock out the Buddha Castle and massive palaces. It was the booming 1600s, before all currencies. They just decided they would just go trade a donkey or two for some limestone. They would give the architect a pineapple for his skills. And this was completed in 1641, perfectly. They give us this story that we have seen so often, where the first church on the exact same site was built around 1125, 899 years ago. And they give us a story of a chemist that gets guillotined just to make us think that they know all about the backstory of these buildings, where we have shown in episode 33, when you just email them about a building that was built in the 1900s, they have no clue who built it. These narratives are story hour, in my opinion. They hold zero truth. They are as trustworthy as a child's bedtime story, where we are told that there was a cemetery connected to this first church, the one that was built 900 years ago. And then this cemetery just disappeared, and the old church was demolished in 1799 because they just needed an upgrade in 1799. And here's another one of those situations where we have these reoccurring names with these stories, where we've seen all the Fredericks in episode 43. But here they give the reoccurring names in a different way. When they say Louis the Ninth and Louis the Eighth, where I understand that this is possible, but we've seen it so many times. The reoccurring names are, in my opinion, exposing that these stories were created by an AI generator. It throws the same name right into the story over and over. It's a pattern, and the AI works on patterns, where if a human wrote this story, they would just make up a new name. And I think this is why we see so many people named Henry the Ninth in these narratives from hundreds of years ago. I think it's a code. They could just say Henry the 30th, and nobody would ever question it. Just accepting this narrative for years, when I think it's clearly a key to look deeper into these stories, these buildings and castles surrounding these characters. So the city supposedly grew too big, and the chapel was replaced, where they know that Louis VIII laid the cornerstone. And when you know, you know. The building's original name holds Mason, Jesuits. The architect of the new church was the Jesuit priest. So now we are made to believe that the 1600s priests were also master architects. This was the first church in Paris to stop using the Gothic style and now use the Baroque style, when the famous Jesuit preacher preached some of his memorable sermons in the church. All documented, of course? No. So my question is, who is this Jesuit priest architect that just knocks out palaces in the 1600s that last forever? We are told that he was born in 1569 and had two brothers who both became Jesuits as well. Almost nothing is known about his early life. Nothing. It's a big mystery, just like the mainstream narrative likes it. But don't worry, they know all about every other detail of the rest of his life. Joining the Jesuit order in 1590, when he was 21, this group, the Jesuits, established themselves in France in the 1560s, but were banned in 1595 after attempting to kill Henry IX. But that's okay, because they let him back in 8 years later. So this master architect, he wasn't even the best one, where he would supposedly draw up all these kinds of buildings, no problem at all, and send them back to a superior general that would have to approve them. So we're supposed to believe a time period where we're told that the population was like 10 people. They also had all kinds of people just waiting around to draw up palaces. And some guy was sitting in his chair throwing master designs in the no pile. How ridiculous does this sound? Now, of course, when they pin a guy to one building, there are always so many more. Here's the first one, which is still in use today. Built this one, and then he also supposedly built the Blois Cathedral, a cathedral that also had multiple buildings. The first one started in the 1100s. However, nothing is left of the original structure. It's just gone. And the next one starts 450 years later. Of course it does. When this one is destroyed by a storm, they get back to work in the 1680s. And then the Americans' bombardment during World War II destroys most of the glasswork in the cathedral. When we know that this sounds like there was something on the glass that told a story, possibly things that would give something away about our past, things that we're not supposed to see. Thinking logically, why would the glass be broken and everything else is fine? It sounds to me like these people just went in there and broke the glass and replaced it with the new narrative. What better way to do this than to just chalk it up to a war? I promise that I have something that will take the mainstream history that we have been force-fed since day one and rip it right in half. So here we go. The photo description states that in the summer of 1903, construction continues inside the entrance to the Palace of Machinery for the Louisiana Purchase Exposition, the 1904 World's Fair. The date of this photo is in 1903. The fair in St. Louis was in 1904. So this would all make perfect sense, except there's a massive flaw. A flaw so big that it's undeniable proof that this building was constructed 100 years before the 1903 date that we are told, and proof that there was a mud flood that ripped through this building at some point after 1803. Where is the foundation of this building? Incredibly detailed construction projects do not take place on top of dirt and garbage. This, in my opinion, is the most incredible photo that I have ever seen to this point. A lie right in our faces, saying that this was being built in 1903, when we have multiple dates of 1803 time-stamped right on the building. Multiple times. Not only that, but you can see that the mud flood damaged the bottom of this building here. The mud came after the construction, not before. And I want to make that point very clear. This is a cleanup project, 100%. After this World's Fair, they knocked these buildings down, not because they were pathetic, but because they held dates that do not fit in our mainstream timeline and architecture that we cannot reproduce today. It's incredible. I've been talking to many people, engineers, construction workers, architects, and more about this photo. They are telling me that this is undeniable proof, and at this point, there isn't an excuse in the book that could save the mainstream history. It's time for everyone to wake up to the nonsense that we have all been force-fed to believe. There are a lot of hidden photos that I'm about to share, and they no longer have to be buried deep in the archives. And for the beginning of these photos, I want to focus on the main theme. The theme being that the building is completed, and they are simply putting scaffolding around the buildings. In my opinion, they are painting these buildings white so that they look brand new, when in reality, they are old and from the past civilization. Here we are told is the government building in the Philippine Exposition. We can zoom in on these guys, and of course they're not doing anything productive. You would think that they could build a better ladder compared to what they supposedly built right next to them. And again, let's switch over to this one, where we are told that this is a construction photo when it's clearly completed. The only construction going on here is the scaffolding. Again and again. People just standing there looking so odd. And it almost looks like they just have a kid here. I mean, look at the detail on top of the columns. It's unbelievable. And I believe that I was correct when I said that they were just painting these buildings. They are not constructing anything. Now let's look down here at the bottom right hand side of this photo. It says right here that these are painters and decorators. They are not building anything like the description says for these photos. And they needed a place to live on site because they were painting all of these old world buildings. They were going to be there for a while. The buildings lasted forever. The paint did not. So they needed to get a fresh coat of paint on there. But when you look at the description of the photo, it says that it's a photo during its construction. So they are clearly lying. Painting is not constructing. It's painting. Two different, completely separate jobs. So these are all from the St. Louis World's Fair that we showed in the intro. The dates are from 1803, not 1903. And it had a mud flood that ripped through the interior of these buildings. So let's take a look at this building from St. Louis. And this is founded and renamed the Varied Industries Building. This is another completion photo that they're trying to say is a construction photo. And I want to zoom in on the top of this building. Can you believe the tech that is on the top of this thing? It's incredible. We have shown the airships in episode 48 and how they connected these flying crafts to the top of these buildings and used them as charging docks. And to be clear, I don't think that the past civilization was limited to just these airships that we have photos of. I think that they had much more powerful vehicles. But let's get back to these photos. Skeptics have said these buildings were just made of wood and very easily constructed, and then that's why they knocked them down. No, the only wood that was being used in this project is for the scaffolding to paint the old world buildings white. The lumber is for the scaffolding, not the actual building. Let's make that very clear. If you've ever gone to one of these buildings, the pillars are pure marble. They're not wood. You can use the Field Museum as an example, located in Chicago. And now here we have another incredible construction photo, where for some reason, there isn't much construction going on, just a building with more scaffolding. So my question is, how have they gotten away with this nonsense for so long? That is not construction. I can clearly see that the building is done. Just because someone put a ladder in front of it doesn't mean this is being constructed. This is the process that painters use. Any painter will confirm this. And also imagine carrying these materials up that scaffolding. If this was really a construction photo, it would be impossible and very embarrassing because nobody would be able to do it. Does anyone see a crane anywhere? No. Once you know, you know. You don't go back to believing in the lies because they are ridiculous. We have more tech in the background here. There are two of them actually. And here we have a bunch of people that found this building. Let's take a second and look at the size of this thing. This was the Palace of Electricity. Could you imagine this being constructed today? This thing is unbelievable. And remember, there were so many of these buildings being thrown together in like 2 years supposedly, at the same exact time. Oh, and they are all dated 1803, not 1903. And what happened to the Palace of Electricity? We were told that these buildings were practically worthless, and they ended up in dump sites because they were just made of wood, right? The problem with that is that they are contradicting themselves. The Missouri History Museum states that the construction for the Palace of Electricity and Machinery costed them $412,000, which is the equivalent to $11.48 million today in 2023. So it's practically worthless, or is it 11.4 million? This is the kind of stuff that makes me fully trust the mainstream narrative. I love just knowing deep down that they would never lie to us. It's just really nice to know. I love that they provide us with full logistical details. They never contradict themselves. They go that extra mile to make sure that what we are being told is exactly what happened. Oh, they don't do any of that? No, they don't do any of that. Literally none of it. The title states that this is the Iowa State Pavilion construction. And if you just shut your eyes right now, you can clearly see them right there laying the cornerstone. Okay, you can open your eyes now. This is the master builder down here. And those guys up there were also fully trained on how to build massive palaces. In fact, they are admittedly self-trained, getting a lot of their architecture designs and ideas from working on Abe Lincoln's house. As you can see, they were very busy workers. They got that building done in less than 2 years, ready for the world to see. temporarily, of course, before knocking it down, so that nobody would ever see it again. And we can't forget to mention that they have painters actually painting this building. 4 of them to be exact. Proving again that these are not construction photos. They are painting photos. And over on the right-hand side of this photo, we can clearly see a construction process happening, putting the scaffolding together with perfection. Just look at that scaffolding architecture. Okay, I'll be done with the sarcasm for today. The mainstream narrative is so ridiculous. It's really hard to not make fun of it at this point. And then we have more painters. He's got his paintbrush in his hand and the paint right there on the scaffolding. So it's pretty clear at this point that these are no longer allowed to be considered construction photos for anyone that ever had a doubt in their mind. Now he's holding up a hat, and that hat says something on it. I wish I knew what it said. Comment below what you think that hat says. All answers are accepted. The guy next to him is also wearing a top hat, which is, of course, if you're going for the productive painter / I still want my style points look, very common for the 1900s. Very impressive. And here we have the United States Fisheries Building during its completion. But I'm going to zoom in on this building on the right-hand side because it's very strange. And we have these creatures' faces on the side of this building, with writing here as well. I can't see exactly what it says, but it definitely doesn't say Fisheries Building. And then we can see more painters up here on the left-hand side. And here we have a modern fisheries building. Built by us, of course, which won't last forever, unfortunately, because that's the way we construct things. So here we have a fisheries building that is designed by the Greek gods. And we are told that this is a separation of 100 years. But we are evolving and advancing, when in all honesty, that's the complete opposite. More and more people are realizing that the mainstream history that is written down by some random individual that was never even there and is being told what to write is a joke. Anyone that is seriously backing the regurgitated nonsense at this point and is serious about it should be very careful what they hope and believe in, because I have a lot more on the way that is going to rip their history books apart.